You're listening to Coffee Break Flight Instruction by MzeroA.com. Flight training tips in 15 minutes or less. Hey everyone, Jason Shapper here of MzeroA.com alongside world famous Uncle Larry Diamond. You're listening to Coffee Break Flight Instruction. Flight training tips in 15 minutes or less. Let's start that clock. And Larry, we're talking today about CRM, Crew Resource Management, a topic you and I both know is going to be in that tiny little PTS book from private pilot all the way up to ATP. It doesn't matter. They're going to talk about CRM and crew resource management. And Larry, now you and I just had such a great opportunity to not only talk about CRM, demonstrate it when we were on the Good Pilot Tour, which doesn't seem like too terribly long ago, but it sort of was in a way. But what Larry and I did, and Larry will share more about this as well, what we did for CRM was I'm a big fan of, flying pilot, talking pilot. And that's CRM on the most basic level. I know Larry's got some actual, accidents and that sort of stuff he can talk about, we can sort of relate to. And Larry knows a little more about the history of CRM, and he can share about that. But CRM on the most basic level is premeditated, establishing our duties in the cockpit. I was the talking pilot, Larry was the flying pilot. Larry handled everything flying-wise. I helped him on the radios, I helped a little bit of navigation stuff. When you're flying IFR and they call up that fix with the really weird name, I was the one to look it up, do all the communicating on the radios, while Larry focused on what was most important, and that's keeping the airplane moving forward and in a safe environment. We both did a great job of that. But it's so easy. It makes flying so much more fun and certainly safer when everybody on board knows their duties. Now, you can practice CRM even with your non-pilot friends that you're flying with or spouse, whatever it may be. Something as simple as, hey, listen, I'm flying the airplane, I'll talk on the radios, but if you wouldn't mind helping, look for traffic. I'm going to look for traffic as well, but let me show you how I look for traffic and teach them how to scan 10 degrees of the sky at a time and work their way all the way across. Talk to them about how to point out traffic like a clock, traffic 1 o'clock, traffic 10 o'clock, and work with them and educate your passengers. That is crew resource management. Just because the word crew is there doesn't mean they have to be a pilot per se. And Larry, I know you know really more about the history of how CRM kind of came about, if you want to share that really quick.
Sure. In 1978, there was a crew in Portland, flying into Portland, and I think it was December 28, 1978. And what they did is they had a landing gear abnormality. So the pilot, the pilot says, "Oh, I'm going to go into a hold, and we're going to try and fix this." Meanwhile, he had a first officer, and I think he had a flight engineer that was actually saying, "Hey, look, we're kind of running low on fuel." But back in that time, it was the captain was the crew. Everything that was said, you really didn't have much say on on what was going on. It was like the captain was the be-all and end-all. No matter if they were doing everything right, sometimes they do everything wrong. And really everybody says, okay, everything divulges back to the captain. So if the captain doesn't want to say anything or not listening to anything, that's his right to do. So really, it's like the flight officer and everybody else were almost afraid to talk to the captain, because unless the captain asked for something, that's all really their responsibilities were. And what they kind of noticed as they were going around trying to fix this landing gear abnormality, they were like losing fuel and they were running down. So finally they realized that they had no fuel because all the engines kind of flamed out and they crashed. So then NASA actually kind of came aboard and said, hey, look, we need to fix this. And so then I think it was in 1989, if you remember, there was a Sioux City, Iowa flight where they had actually, I think it was like a couple pilots that were sitting on board. They had a full flight crew, and between them they had like 103 hours or 103 years of experience, and they figured out they had no hydraulics. They were using their engines to make left and right turns. And the captain says the only reason why we survived is because we had crew resource managers. So there was actually an aviation psychologist who kind of came up and says, look, he says, first you have to get the captain's attention. Like, Captain Bob or Captain Jason? Yes. And then what they do is they say, well, it looks like I don't think we have enough gas to get around that cell that's in front of us. Okay, the next thing you do is say, Captain, we only have 40 minutes of fuel left, and I think it's going to take us like about an hour to get there. So then what you do is you give a suggestion. How about let's land at that airport that's probably just 10 minutes away from us. And then after that, then you say, Captain, what do you think? And that's how you do a lot of use. So I call it actually my Jedi mind words. Is even when I do this at work at the hospital, I make the docs think that it's their idea. So we use words like you and us and we, but you kind of give them your suggestions, and if you feel strongly about it, being assertive. It's not about them thinking and losing their authority. It's got nothing to do with that. It's all about the safety. So that's really where crew resource management comes from.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then look back to like more recently, the Asiana accident, which the NTSB is coming out that was a poor CRM situation. The first officer realizing that they were too low coming in, too slow on the approach, but didn't speak up. And that may be a cultural thing as well, Larry. Look further back at like the Tenerife accident, where you had this macho captain, I know everything, I'm the best, co-pilot, you bring nothing to the table, and just dismissing his crew. He's the poster boy for this airline, basically. He's super pilot. You've got to have CRM in the cockpit. And it starts with defining your roles and respecting everybody's decision. That's what it really, really comes down to. And Larry, you brought up a great thing by saying, using words like you and we and us. It's not disrespectful, but it's sharing ideas. And I think that's a smart thing for those of you who do end up in that kind of dynamic with somebody. Listen, you could end up, guys, in that kind of dynamic. I ended up in it early on in my training. I had just become a private pilot, and I was out building time with a gentleman who was studying to be a commercial pilot. Had more hours than me, better than me, but, well, at least on paper, he was better than me. He wasn't making very smart decisions, though, in that case, and sometimes you have to know when it's time to speak up. That's crew resource management, and establishing it ahead of time on the ground is going to save you a whole lot of headaches up there in the air. So, guys, thanks so much for tuning in to Coffee Break Flight Instruction, flight training tips in 15 minutes or less. Be sure to subscribe to us in iTunes, as well as leave us a review in iTunes with what you guys think of the podcast. So, on behalf of myself, world-famous Uncle Larry Diamond, the entire MzeroA.com team, enjoy the rest of your day, and most importantly, remember, the good pilot is always learning. Have a great day, guys. See ya.